Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point. And we all know the mosquito fire is continuing to spread throughout Placer and El Dorado counties. Tens of thousands of acres have burned, and roughly 11,000 people are currently under evacuation orders. And there have been a lot of questions about when people can come back home. CAL FIRE tells us there is no estimate and they cannot speculate. Patrols are underway 24/7 to make sure that people don't get through those blocked roads in those evacuation zones. We have meteorologist Brendan here. Brendan, cooler temperatures are here, but does that help firefighters?
It can. It certainly can help firefighters and fire as well, because, obviously it's much more difficult to fight a fire when it's 100 degrees outside versus when it's 75 degrees outside.
Right.
But in terms of the fire, a lot of that has to do with humidity. It has to do with wind. Wind is a big thing that we'll be watching over the next few days, really, and especially tomorrow, as winds do look to pick up a little bit.
And we notice all the smoky conditions, especially here in Sacramento. What's expected for that?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at the smoke tracker here. And you'll see this afternoon and this evening, most of that smoke is up in the foothills and those higher elevations. Strong onshore flow is going to kick a lot of that smoke up out of the valley, and that'll be the trend even as we go through tomorrow morning. But look what happens when we get towards tomorrow around lunchtime into those afternoon and evening hours. Onshore winds really pick up, gusts up to about 20 miles an hour, in fact, in the Sacramento area. And that's going to continue off into the foothills in the Sierra. And so areas like Truckee, Reno, really right along I-80, we're going to see a lot of smoke up there tomorrow. And we'll be watching fire growth in that direction as well.
All right, Brendan, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
As we anticipate how weather will impact the mosquito fire, Van 2 is hearing from a church that holds Michigan Bluff dear to its heart. Parts of that area burnt down in the 1960s. The 400-plus acre camp is near Michigan Bluff and Chicken Hawk Road, which saw a flurry of fire activity.
The apocalyptic orange glow of flames.
Just devastating. Absolutely devastating.
Stopped Paige Beach in her tracks when she saw this photo. It was just last year she and her fiancé took engagement photos at this very sign.
That is the sign that everyone sees, knowing that you have arrived.
It's a landmark for the community of the Great Commission Camp, owned by the Regional Church Disciples of Christ since 1959. Beach's first thought when she saw the image late last week?
Just decimated. The camp is gone.
But what she didn't know at the time, fire crews had held the fire, saving the Regional Church Camp. CAL FIRE officials say crews staged at the camp during their initial defense.
Our hearts just caught in our throats.
Pastor Ted Furch said the congregation is grateful and gearing up to help its neighbors impacted by the fire, noting, though, that the mosquito fire holds a greater lesson.
Christians all over Northern California will need to rethink our relationship to the environment.
Furch says climate change has changed how the church camp operates as the threat of mega fires has increased over the past decade.
That we can be good stewards of the earth that God has given us, at least better stewards than we have been in the past.
Wow. So the church really survived here, and Pastor Ted Furch said that really over the past 10 years, the church really has done a lot to be more fire safe and environmentally friendly. So they have done a lot of brush clearing, but also they've made changes to the camp itself. For instance, no campfires at this camp. So instead they use Christmas lights.
All right, Van, thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, following up on last week's Flex Alerts, there were unexpected lessons about how California's power grid works. We heard from many of you asking how renewable energy plays into all of this. And it turns out there's already a statewide plan in the works. Becca Habegger found out how SMUD is approaching it.
We've all seen and felt the effects of climate change in California. They become more obvious each year. Devastating droughts and wildfires, in part, led the board's unanimous decision to issue a climate emergency declaration in 2020.
That's Heidi Sanborn, vice president of SMUD's board of directors, whose members challenged the Sacramento Municipal Utility District to take bold steps to reduce carbon emissions. That led to the utility's 2030 zero carbon plan.
Trying to eliminate our carbon emissions from our energy supply completely by 2030.
Scott Martin, SMUD's chief strategy officer, admits the plan is ambitious.
We're probably one of the the only utilities in the world that has really set this aggressive of a goal.
To those who say SMUD is moving too quickly, I say, if not now, when? And if not us, who?
SMUD is already more than halfway there. In 2020, the utility says its power supply was more than 60% carbon-free. The plan to get totally carbon-free in its generation of electricity by 2030 involves retiring 2 of SMUD's 5 natural gas power plants and making changes at the other 3. Also ramping up investments in clean technology like wind turbines, solar panels, and utility-scale batteries to store that renewable energy.
3, 2, 1.
Earlier this year, elected officials and business leaders celebrated the installation of SMUD's first large-scale lithium-ion battery storage units at the utility's Sacramento Power Academy, or Hedge Solar Farm, just east of Sacramento.
We all know that solar and wind energy do not produce power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The old days of use it or lose it will become a thing of the past when we're able to store clean power for future use.
SMUD started with these 6 battery storage units.
You can kind of see in general scale, that's 4 megawatts in these very basic batteries here.
SMUD says those 4 megawatts of electricity from stored solar energy can power 800 homes for 2 hours.
But if you take this to a bigger scale, over the next few years, we're not going to have just 4 megawatts like this.
SMUD anticipates adding up to 1,100 megawatts of new, local, short-duration battery storage.
To store the solar when it's in excess and to use it when we need it when it's not available.
So what is this whole effort going to cost SMUD customers?
We've committed as part of the plan to not increase rates faster than the rate of inflation.
He says the plan will also create new jobs in the energy sector through training programs.
We expect to bring thousands of jobs to this region. We want to prepare our communities, especially our under-resourced communities, to take those jobs.
Our work will showcase Sacramento as a clean tech region, attracting climate-friendly businesses and creating good-paying jobs.
SMUD CEO and General Manager Paul Lau says he hopes the initiative will help lead in the long run to better air quality as well.
Now, California has a goal of getting to 100% clean electricity by 2045, with a benchmark of 60% by 2030. The State Energy Commission says that we're ahead of schedule, claiming that 59% of the state's energy came from renewables just in 2020. almost hitting the benchmark a decade early. And then there's PG&E, California's largest electric utility. They plan on reaching net zero emissions by 2040, which is 5 years before the state's deadline. And then in light of recent strain on our power grid, it's also worth mentioning that PG&E is working on growing its battery energy storage to 3,300 megawatts, which could be dispatched in times of high demand, exactly like how we saw last week. All right, the mourning period for Queen Elizabeth II continues. What comes next? We'll get into that after the break. It is day 4 of the United Kingdom's 10-day mourning period after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen's son and successor to the throne, King Charles III, made his first address to Parliament today before joining the royal family for a procession in Scotland. But anti-royal protesters were also outside of the Queen's procession, calling the millennia-old institution into question. When asked if there's still a place for the monarchy in the modern world, a former spokesperson for the Crown said the answer is clear.
I think the opinion polls are pretty clear. The vast majority of people in this country want to keep the monarchy. Of course, there are people who disagree.
While support for the monarchy could still be high, another former spokesperson says King Charles III could be looking to slim down the institution.
I think he will look at the infrastructure, the buildings. Do we need all these palaces? Should Buckingham Palace be opened up to the public more?
The Queen returns to London on Wednesday to lie in state, and people will be allowed to pay their respects 24 hours a day until the funeral, which is scheduled for next Monday. It will be a holiday in the UK, and massive crowds are expected. The shortage of teachers in California has become a crisis. We're talking to local educators about a wave of retirements on the horizon and how the state is trying to improve recruitment efforts. Schools around the country are facing a crisis. There are not enough teachers to fill classrooms, and California is no different. The State School Board Association says we're about 100,000 teachers behind where we need to be to provide high quality education to students. States like California are even easing requirements for teachers to enter the classroom. So I've been speaking with local educators to try to get to the bottom of what's going wrong and what's being done to remedy the issue. Tonight, we're talking about the retirement pool and how California is trying to improve recruitment. One teacher says something must be done different to get new people into the profession.
I've heard more teachers who are in their 40s this year saying that they've gone onto the CalSTRS website with the pension calculator and said, what would happen if I actually did retire this year or next year, than I've ever heard before. They're kind of joking, but they're also kind of not joking. If things get worse, they're looking for a way out because they don't know if they can continue doing this for another 20 years. And that's horrifying. I'll be retiring in not too much longer, and they'll be the ones who are leading the school and helping the new teachers acclimate. They can't go. And so that has me very concerned. If they're looking for a way out, that's kind of scary.
Diana Lambert, who is the senior education reporter at EdSource, a nonprofit publication that focuses on education right here in California, explains the bigger picture.
Just the fact that we have a large group of teachers retiring naturally. We had a big group of teachers in a certain age group who are now retiring. Then we had a 25% increase in retirements in 2020 because of COVID. It has leveled off, but it's impacted us greatly. And although we did have a slight uptick in teacher candidates graduating, it's not enough. It just isn't enough. Now we have other teachers retiring, leaving early. They're not counted in the retirement numbers. So leaving early because of bad behavior, the lack of support from administration in some cases, and just, general feeling that people don't appreciate teachers.
I'm seeing more considering things in education outside of teaching. More of them thinking, I think I want to go to the county level. I think I want to go to the district level. I think I want out of the classroom. Not necessarily wanting to leave the profession of education altogether, but wanting to find ways to love what they do, but not do it in the classroom anymore. And that makes me sad because I feel like there's some amazing teachers who have real connections with kids that are burning out.
And with teachers retiring, recruiting new teachers is crucial. So how has California addressed the issue?
They put $2 billion in the last 4 years into teacher training, retention, and recruitment. There's several new programs that are in place, residency programs, as well as just grow your own programs where districts will train their bus drivers, clerks, etc., people with bachelor's degrees generally, put them through a credential program that the state pays for.
We've got to do something different if we're going to bring people into the profession.
Troy Flint, who is the Chief Information Officer for the California School Boards Association, says more needs to be done at the state and federal level.
When we treat the situation with the urgency it deserves, that we'll be able to make a dent in this situation and eventually get back to sea level. But it's going to take a real concentrated effort of will to do that. And we haven't seen that at the state or the federal level yet. There have been incremental programs, grant programs, both at the state and at the federal level, but we need something much more monumental to equal the task. We need to look at things like scholarships for people who are entering the teacher profession, debt forgiveness programs that really work, unlike the ones we have, which almost nobody can qualify for. We need to make the conditions better for teachers in schools so the position looks more attractive. We need to increase compensation as well. This can't just happen at the local level. There needs to be a lot of support where there's more power, where there's more resources. That's at the state and federal level to drive this.
I would love for us to pay our student teachers. They need to be paid. We're asking them to take on more student debt, to do an apprenticeship job that we're not paying them to apprentice. Other professions, you get an apprentice wage. We're not doing that. We're like, this is part of your schooling and you can't work while you do it. So you're going to take on more debt in order to become a teacher But if we paid them an apprenticeship wage, it says you're valuable, we want you in this profession, we're willing to pay you to apprentice.
There are still lots of people who want to work with kids and they love their subjects. I get to teach some of the greatest books ever written, and that's very fulfilling for me when I see a kid's eyes light up and really get into the works that we're studying, and that's really powerful for me. But if you've never done the job and you don't know what it's like to see that happen with a kid, then that may not be something necessarily that will pull you past all of those other barriers into the profession.
One of the first steps that we need to take as a nation, as a state, as local communities to addressing the teacher shortage is to restore respect to the profession of teaching, or maybe give it proper respect for the first time. That can take the form of increased compensation. It can take the form of improved working conditions.
At the beginning of the year, I always write a letter to my students, and then I have them write a letter to me. And I've used the same quote for many years as part of that letter, and it comes from King Lear by Shakespeare. And King Lear says, "Nothing comes of nothing." And I use that to talk to the kids about how if you can give me something, I can work with you. If you give me nothing, then it makes it that much harder.
We've been asking current and former teachers to share their thoughts on the state of teaching. We had another viewer who is currently a teacher at a charter school write in about our teacher shortage series, and she asked not to be named, but said in part, "Why is there a teacher shortage? I could write a book." She outlined a slew of factors that made work difficult for her, like unsustainable pay early in her career, overcrowded classes, safety concerns, and an unsupportive administration. The teacher also added, a classroom teacher is really on his own, just dealing with behaviors as best they can. There is a huge gap in what we are expected to do, what we do, and how we're paid. I also want to note that nearly all of the educators we've heard from have really emphasized that they love or had love for their students and their work, but all of these challenges have just weighed on them. And there are many other factors contributing to the teacher shortage. And later this week, we are following one of the most critical pieces of the problem, the lack of substitute teachers. We want to hear from you or any current and former teachers watching this right now. Let us know your thoughts about the changing landscape in the classroom. All you have to do is just email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. All right, let's take a look outside at the Gilmore backyard. Taking a look at temperatures around town for today. Sacramento seeing another warm day, not quite as warm as last week, but 91. Marysville at 92. And here's a quick check of your 10-day forecast. Football is back and more women are changing the face of the NFL. The NFL has 15 women in coaching roles, which is up from 12 last year. And that's the most ever in any professional male league. Amanda Ruler is an assistant running back coach for the Seattle Seahawks and says this is an opportunity for all women.
I felt like I belonged for the first time in my entire life to a coaching staff that was greater than anything. I felt like I was beyond anything I've ever done in my entire life. This is where I belong. Now you can see women like myself doing it. Now other people can be it. Other people can achieve it. Other people can dream about it. She did it. I can do it.
Amanda makes her debut in the Seattle Seahawks Denver Broncos game, and ABC 10 is home to Monday Night Football for the next 3 Mondays. Yep, that's right. Have a great night. We'll see you later. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.